The steel bridge stretched across the ravine like a skeletal finger, its rain-slick surface gleaming under sporadic flashes of lightning. Torrential downpour reduced visibility to mere yards, while thunder crashed overhead, drowning out all but the closest gunfire. On this god-forsaken span of metal and concrete, Blackwater Bridge, Afghanistan, July 2002, 8 Navy SEALs crouched in defensive positions, their expressions grim with the certainty of death. Lieutenant Commander James Harlow, 54, wiped blood from a shrapnel wound above his left eye. 27 years of special operations had taught him to recognize a death trap when he saw one. This was it. No evac, no comms, no options, he muttered, scanning the perimeter with night vision goggles. His team had walked straight into an ambush, one that intelligence had somehow missed completely. He keyed his radio again, receiving only static. Intelligence had reported 30 hostiles with light weapons. Instead, they'd encountered a force 7 times that size with heavy machine guns, RPGs, and sophisticated electronic warfare equipment. "This is our grave, sir," whispered Lieutenant Cooper, his voice barely audible over the storm. Through the downpour, Harlow spotted the enemy commander at the far end of the bridge, a tall figure in tactical gear, arm raised to signal the final assault. Raymond Khalid, the mastermind behind the '98 embassy bombings that killed 37 Americans. 3 years the CIA had hunted him. Now he was here, about to preside over the slaughter of 8 more Americans. Time slowed to a crawl. Harlow thought of his wife back home, the daughter who might grow up without a father. He thought of the men beside him, America's finest, about to die in an ambush that should have been predicted, should have been prevented. Then, cutting through the chaos like divine intervention, crack. A single sniper shot split the night, its distinctive sound unmistakable. The Barrett .50 caliber rifle had a voice all its own, a thunderous roar that could be heard for miles. Through his night vision, Harlow watched as Khalid's head snapped back with shocking violence. The man's raised arm dropped limp at his side as he collapsed. For one impossible heartbeat, the entire battlefield fell silent. 200 fighters froze in confusion. 8 SEALs stared in disbelief. Even the storm seemed to pause. "Who the hell fired that shot?" Sergeant Sean Dixon whispered, scanning the darkness. "And from where?" Harlow shook his head, equally baffled. None of his men carried a .50 cal. This shot had come from somewhere else, from someone else. Someone who had just changed the course of the battle. Someone who had just given them a chance to survive. 3 months earlier, Fort Liberty stood like a dusty fortress in the Texas desert. Morning formations cast long shadows across the compound as Navy SEALs conducted their daily training routines. In the supply depot, far from the glamour of the combat teams, Ashley Rivera moved like a ghost. 5'2", barely 100 pounds, with short black hair and eyes that studied the ground rather than meet anyone's gaze. She counted medical supplies, inventoried ammunition, and served meals in the mess hall. Among the warriors of Fort Liberty, she was known simply as the Logistics Girl. "Hey, Logistics lady!" a voice boomed across the supply room. Sergeant Sean Dixon stood in the doorway, his 6-foot frame blocking most of the light. "Got those rifle cleaning kits we requested last week? Or are you still learning how to read supply forms?" 3 SEALs behind him chuckled. Dixon, 38, with 2 tours in Somalia and the scars to prove it, had made Ashley a regular target since she arrived. "Yes, Sergeant," Ashley replied softly, reaching under her desk for a box and placing it on the counter without making eye contact. Dixon picked up the package, inspecting it with exaggerated care. "Well, would you look at that? The Logistics Girl actually got something right." He turned to his team. "Mark the calendar, boys. Might not happen again this deployment." More laughter. Ashley kept her eyes fixed on her clipboard, her face a motionless mask that revealed nothing of the thoughts behind it. As they left, Ashley reached for her pen and made a small note in the margins of her inventory sheet. Dixon favors his right side. Slight trigger delay. Blinks before firing. The note joined dozens of similar observations, hidden among supply numbers and stock codes. Details no one would notice. Details no one would think to look for. No one except Ashley Rivera. Later that afternoon, she delivered meals to the Tactical Operations Center, where Commander Harlow was reviewing satellite imagery of Blackwater Bridge, a key strategic point in the upcoming operation. "Meal service, sir," she announced quietly, placing the tray beside the maps. Harlow barely glanced up. "Just leave it there, thanks." Ashley set down the food but didn't immediately leave. Her eyes scanned the tactical map with practiced efficiency, noting patrol routes, observation posts, and terrain features. 15 seconds of observation gave her more information than most people would gather in an hour. "Is there something else?" Harlow asked, finally noticing her lingering presence. "No, sir." "Sorry, sir." She backed away quickly, returning to her professional invisibility. What Harlow didn't see was the quick sketch Ashley made in her notebook when she returned to the hallway, a perfect rendering of the bridge layout and surrounding terrain she had glimpsed on his table. That evening, a tray clattered down opposite Ashley's in the mess hall. She looked up to find Master Sergeant Frank Mitchell settling his 65-year-old frame into the seat across from her. With graying hair buzzed to regulation length and deep lines etched into his weathered face, Mitchell was the oldest active service member on the base, a living relic who had refused retirement for so long that the military had simply given up trying to force him out. "Saw Dixon giving you grief again today," he said between bites of mashed potatoes. "That boy's got more mouth than brains sometimes." Ashley shrugged slightly. "It doesn't bother me." Mitchell studied her for a moment, his pale blue eyes seeing more than most. "Request crossed my desk today. 17th time you've asked for combat team assignment. 17th time it's been denied." Ashley's fork paused halfway to her mouth, the only indication that his words had affected her. "Brass says you're more valuable in logistics," Mitchell continued. "Says your organizational skills are too important to lose to a combat role." She resumed eating, her movements precise and controlled. "I understand the military's need for effective resource allocation." Mitchell laughed, a rough sound like boots on gravel. "That's a fancy way of saying you know they're full of shit." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Your father would have had some choice words about it, I imagine." Ashley's head snapped up, her eyes meeting his for the first time. "You knew my father?" A slow nod. "Miguel Rivera. Served with him during Desert Storm. Best damn shooter I ever saw." Mitchell watched as emotions flickered across her face. Surprise, disbelief, curiosity. "Your father saved my life," Mitchell said. "February 27th, 91. Highway of Death, Kuwait. Our unit was pinned down by Republican Guard who'd survived the initial airstrikes. No air support available. No way out." He pointed to a scar that ran along his jawline. "Took shrapnel here. Was bleeding out when your dad appeared on our comms." Mitchell's eyes took on a distant look. He was 5 miles away. Weather conditions were shit. Visibility near zero from oil fires. But he found us. Started dropping them one by one. 17 confirmed kills in under 12 minutes. Saved every one of us. Operation was classified. Still is, technically. Your father never got official recognition for what he did that day. Never complained about it either. Mitchell fixed her with a penetrating stare. "That's why I knew it was you the moment I saw your name. Rivera, the family that serves without needing the glory." He pushed himself to his feet. "Come by the armory tomorrow, or 600. I've got a new shipment of cleaning supplies that needs organizing." His emphasis made it clear that cleaning supplies meant something else entirely. As he turned to leave, he added quietly, "Your father once told me the most dangerous person in any conflict isn't the one making all the noise. It's the one no one notices until it's too late." Dawn broke over the New Mexico desert, painting the landscape in strokes of amber and gold. 12-year-old Ashley Rivera lay prone on a rocky outcropping, her father's hunting rifle steady against her shoulder. The target, a tin can placed on a fence post, stood 500 yards away. "Breathe, mija," Miguel Rivera instructed, his voice gentle but firm. "Feel the earth beneath you. Become part of it." Ashley inhaled slowly, allowing her body to settle deeper into the ground. "What's the wind doing?" Miguel asked. 10 man per shusha from the northwest. Temperature 68 degrees rising. Distance to target 500 yards. "And what does that mean for your shot?" Ashley adjusted her scope minutely. "Compensate 2 inches right for wind drift. Elevation adjustment for bullet drop over distance." Miguel nodded, pride evident in his eyes. "The math is important, mija. But remember what I always tell you? The final shot must be perfect," she finished for him. It was his mantra, repeated during every lesson since she was old enough to hold a rifle. Miguel carried an ancient Barrett 50 caliber rifle, its wooden stock carved with the name Rivera. The weapon had been with him through Desert Storm and with his father before him in earlier conflicts. "Why do we practice so much, Papa?" Ashley asked as they walked back to their truck. "None of the kids at school do this." Miguel secured the rifles before answering. "The desert teaches us things the school cannot, mija. Patience, precision, respect." He gazed out at the harsh landscape. "Out here, there is no room for error. One mistake can mean death. The desert does not forgive weakness, but it respects patience." Their small ranch sat 30 miles from the nearest neighbor. The isolation suited Miguel, who had returned from the Gulf War with honors, but also with shadows behind his eyes that never quite disappeared. He had raised Ashley alone since her mother died in childbirth, teaching his daughter the only things he truly understood: marksmanship, survival, and duty. "You don't need to be the fastest shooter, mija," he would say during their lessons. "You just need to take the final shot, and that shot must be perfect." In the darkness of her quarters at Fort Liberty, Ashley ran an oiled cloth along the barrel of that same Barrett 50 caliber rifle. The weapon lay disassembled on her narrow military cot, each piece cleaned with reverent care. Miguel had died when Ashley was 19 in an IED explosion during a second tour as a civilian contractor in Iraq. The military had sent home his personal effects: the Barrett, a Purple Heart, in a piece of burned fabric from his tactical vest, stained with sand and blood. The next morning, she reported to the armory at exactly 600 hours. Mitchell was already there, a cup of steaming coffee in his gnarled hand. The armory was Mitchell's domain, weapons of every description lining the walls. He locked the door behind them and led her to a small room in the back, where he opened a locker to reveal a disassembled sniper spotting scope, far more advanced than standard issue. "This isn't on any inventory. As far as the Army's concerned, it doesn't exist." He closed the case and handed it to her. "Neither does this conversation." Mitchell was providing her with tools and tacit approval, but also deniability for them both. "I've scheduled you for supply runs to the observation post twice weekly," he continued. "Route will take you through ideal vantage points overlooking key terrain." "Your father had a saying," Mitchell added as he led her back to the main armory. "The most important shot is the one no one sees coming," Ashley finished, surprising herself with the memory. Over the following weeks, Ashley divided her life at Fort Liberty into 2 distinct parts. By day, she remained the quiet, unassuming logistics specialist. By night, and during her supply runs, she transformed into her father's daughter. She used Mitchell's spotting scope to study the terrain surrounding the base, mapping firing angles and calculating distances. She memorized patrol routes, identified vulnerabilities and security patterns, and documented everything in her growing collection of notebooks. One evening, as she delivered coffee to the Tactical Operations Center, she overheard Commander Harlow briefing his team on increased enemy activity near Blackwater Bridge. Intelligence reports light resistance in the area, he was saying, pointing to the map. Maybe 30 fighters, minimal equipment. Local warlord using the bridge to move supplies. Our job is to secure the position and hold it until Army units arrive to establish a permanent presence. Ashley's eyes narrowed slightly as she set down the coffee tray. Something about the intelligence assessment felt wrong. 30 fighters didn't align with the convoy patterns she had observed during her supply runs. "Commander," she said before she could stop herself, "may I ask a question about the operation?" Harlow turned, surprise evident on his face. The other SEALs looked equally startled, as if a piece of furniture had suddenly spoken. "What is it, Rivera?" "The satellite imagery of Blackwater," she said, keeping her voice neutral. "Has it been updated in the last 72 hours? Harlow frowned. "Why do you ask?" "Weather patterns, sir. There was a significant dust storm 3 days ago. It would have affected visibility for aerial reconnaissance." The room fell silent. Dixon exchanged glances with the other SEALs. "And how exactly would you know about classified weather data for operational areas?" Harlow asked, his tone hardening. Ashley realized her mistake immediately. "Sir, it was noted in the logistics briefing. For convoy scheduling." Harlow stared at her for a long moment. "Thank you for the coffee, Specialist Rivera. That will be all." Behind her, she heard Dixon's voice. "Since when does the coffee girl offer tactical advice?" "Forget it," Harlow replied. "We deploy at 0200 hours. Check your gear and get some rest." A knock on her door interrupted Ashley's thoughts that evening. She quickly slid her notebook under her pillow before opening the door to find Master Sergeant Mitchell. Once inside with the door closed, he lowered his voice. "Harlow reported your little comment to Colonel Stevens. Wanted to know why a logistics specialist was asking about satellite imagery." "The intelligence is wrong," she said urgently. "There's a much larger force at Blackwater than they're reporting." Mitchell nodded slowly. "I had the same thought. But Harlow won't listen to concerns from support staff, and the mission's already been approved at division level." He glanced at her footlocker where she kept the Barrett disassembled. "What are you thinking?" Ashley met his gaze steadily. That history might be about to repeat itself. Understanding dawned in the old Marine's eyes. "Your father's situation, outnumbered unit, no backup." He shook his head. "This isn't Desert Storm, Rivera, and you're not officially a combat specialist." "Neither was my father when he saved your unit," she countered softly. "Sometimes the most important person in a battle is the one no one expects to be there." Mitchell studied her for a long moment, conflict evident in his weathered face. Finally, he reached into his pocket and handed her a small device. "Encrypted radio. Short range but secure. Frequency is preset." His voice dropped even lower. "Supply convoy leaves at 0100, 1 hour before the SEAL team. Standard route takes it within 3 miles of Blackwater Ridge. Driver owes me a favor." "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because 22 men walked out of Kuwait alive, because Miguel Rivera made a choice, because sometimes the chain of command gets it wrong." He turned to leave, then paused. "And because your father would haunt me from the grave if I let his daughter walk into the same damn trap he saved us from." The decision before Ashley carried enormous consequences. If she was wrong, she would face court-martial and dishonor. If she was right but failed to act, men would die. She thought of her father's words, "The final shot must be perfect." She began to pack. The mountain darkness wrapped around Ashley as she moved through the supply convoy staging area. The heavy case containing the disassembled Barrett rested against her back, concealed within a standard-issue medical supply pack. She approached the lead vehicle, a rugged transport truck. The driver, Specialist Torres, leaned against the hood, smoking a cigarette. "Gunny Mitchell sent me," she said quietly. Torres studied her for a moment, then nodded toward the passenger door without question. "We roll in 5." As the convoy rumbled through the base's gate and into the open terrain beyond, Torres broke the silence. "Never thought I'd be driving Rivera's kid around," he said suddenly. "Your old man pulled my brother out of a bad situation in Fallujah. Lost his legs, but kept his life because of your father." "Knew of him," Torres clarified. "Miguel Rivera was a legend among certain circles. Not the kind they write books about. The kind operators tell stories about when no one else is listening." As they approached the turnoff point that would give Ashley access to the ridge overlooking Blackwater, Torres slowed the vehicle. "Routine maintenance check," he announced into the radio. Under this cover, Ashley slipped from the passenger side and disappeared into the pre-dawn shadows. The climb was arduous, especially with the weight of the Barrett. Reaching a suitable vantage point took nearly an hour. The position she selected offered excellent sight lines to the bridge, while providing natural concealment. As the first light of dawn began to illuminate the valley, Ashley meticulously assembled the Barrett 50 caliber rifle and began to survey the terrain through her spotting scope. What she saw confirmed her worst fears. The valley and surrounding canyon walls teemed with activity, carefully concealed from casual observation. At least 6 machine gun nests were positioned strategically to create interlocking fields of fire across the bridge. Ashley counted movement patterns, estimating force strength. Not 30 fighters as intelligence had reported, at least 200, possibly more, with significant heavy weapons. This wasn't a simple security force. This was an elaborate ambush, carefully prepared and patiently waiting. She reached for the encrypted radio Mitchell had given her, then hesitated, warning the SEALs now would expose her unauthorized position. Commander Harlow had already dismissed her concerns once. Would he listen now? Instead of using the radio, potentially compromising both her position and their operation, she would remain silent and watchful. If the trap was sprung as she anticipated, she would be in perfect position to influence the outcome. She would become her father's daughter in truth, the unseen guardian, the shadow no one expected. As midday approached, the heat became oppressive. Ashley remained perfectly still, conserving energy and water. Through her scope, she observed an increase in enemy activity. Then she saw him. A tall figure in black tactical gear emerged from a cave entrance on the far side of the canyon. Fighters straightened their posture as he passed, a visible ripple of respect or fear. Ashley adjusted her scope, focusing on his features. She recognized him immediately from intelligence briefings. Raymond Khalid, a high-value target who had eluded capture for years. His presence elevated this ambush from a routine insurgent operation to something far more significant. Hours passed in disciplined stillness. As afternoon waned toward evening, weather conditions deteriorated. Dark clouds gathered over the mountains, bringing the promise of a storm. Her radio crackled to life. "Rivera, this is Mitchell. SEAL team is 20 minutes from your position. Weather report indicates severe storm front moving in. If you're still out there, conditions are about to get a lot worse." Be advised, Harlow convinced command to approve helicopter extraction from the bridge after they secure it. Birds scheduled for 2,100 hours. The news about helicopter extraction troubled her. If the SEAL team believed rapid extraction was available, they might push forward aggressively, even when confronted with superior numbers. Thunder rumbled in the distance as the storm approached. Ashley made final adjustments to her calculations, accounting for the changing barometric pressure and increasing wind speeds. Phoenix team approaching objective. 5 minutes out. Phoenix was the SEAL team's call sign. They were almost at the bridge. The trap was about to be sprung. Ashley settled deeper into her firing position, her breathing slow and controlled. She was ready. Raindrops began to fall as the 8-man SEAL team approached the eastern entrance of Blackwater Bridge. Harlow led the column, his night vision goggles cutting through the growing darkness. He raised his fist, signaling the team to halt and take defensive positions. Something felt wrong. Years of combat experience had given him an intuition for danger that transcended intelligence reports. "Eyes sharp," he murmured into his comms. "Davis, Williams, check the support structures. Thompson, Johnson, cover the far side. Dixon with me to recon the approach." Sergeant Dixon crouched beside Harlow, scanning the bridge entrance. "Sir, visibility is shit. This rain's getting worse." "I know," Harlow replied, squinting through his night vision. "But something else is off. You feel it?" Dixon nodded grimly. "Too quiet. No movement. No sign of the enemy force intelligence reported." "Because they're already in position," Harlow realized aloud, his stomach dropping. "This is—" Before he could complete the thought, the night erupted in gunfire. Muzzle flashes exploded from both ends of the bridge and from concealed positions carved into the canyon walls. "Contact! Contact!" Harlow shouted into his radio as bullets whined overhead. "Multiple hostiles, all sides!" The SEALs scrambled for cover, but the narrow bridge offered precious little protection. Private Davis took a round in the shoulder and went down hard, his blood mixing with rainwater. Harlow tried raising command on the radio, but static filled the channel. "Comms are jammed. They knew we were coming." The intelligence failure was catastrophic. This wasn't a force of 30 fighters with minimal equipment. This was a sophisticated ambush with electronic warfare capabilities. Lightning flashed again, and in that stark moment of illumination, Harlow saw the full extent of their predicament. They were surrounded, outgunned, with their backs to a 1,000-foot drop. "Sir, what's the play?" Dixon asked, ejecting an empty magazine, while bullets sparked off the steel beam beside his head. Harlow looked at his team. 8 of America's finest warriors, pinned down like rabbits in a trap. For the first time in his 27-year career, he had no answer. 300 yards away, hidden behind a rock outcropping, Ashley watched the slaughter unfold through her spotting scope. The SEALs had walked straight into the ambush, just as she'd feared. Now they were trapped in the middle of the bridge, caught in a perfectly executed crossfire. Through the pouring rain, Ashley could see the SEALs returning fire, but their ammunition wouldn't last long against such overwhelming numbers. Ashley shifted her spotting scope, searching for Khalid. If she could locate the enemy commander, taking him out might create enough confusion to give the SEALs a fighting chance. There, on a protected ledge at the western end of the bridge, Khalid stood surrounded by bodyguards, observing the battle through binoculars. He was directing the final phase of the assault, his arm raised to signal fighters waiting in reserve positions. In 30 seconds, he would give the order for a full frontal assault from both ends of the bridge. The SEALs would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Ashley moved from her spotting scope to the Barrett. Rain streamed down her face as she settled into position, making final adjustments for the shot. The distance was 1,200 yards, wind gusting at 15 miles per hour from the northwest. Elevation differential 80 feet, humidity 92%, temperature 68 degrees and falling. These factors and a dozen others would affect the bullet's trajectory. A miss would not only fail to stop the assault, but would also reveal her position to enemy forces. She would have one chance, one perfect shot. On the bridge, Private Johnson's voice cracked through the storm. "This is our grave, sir." Ashley saw Khalid raise his hand higher, ready to give the kill order. She took a deep breath, held it, and squeezed the trigger. The Barrett roared like thunder, its muzzle flash briefly illuminating the canyon wall. The massive rifle bucked against her shoulder with tremendous force, but Ashley rode the recoil with practiced discipline. Through her scope, she watched as Raymond Khalid's head snapped back violently. He toppled backward, his raised hand falling limp at his side. His bodyguard stood frozen in shock. For one impossible moment, the entire battlefield fell silent. 200 fighters froze in confusion. 8 SEALs stared in disbelief. Even the storm seemed to pause. Then chaos erupted again, but everything had changed. Without their commander, the carefully planned ambush dissolved into panicked confusion. Machine gunners abandoned their positions. Snipers fled their caves. The disciplined assault transformed into a mob of frightened men. On the bridge, Commander Harlow lifted his head above the concrete barrier, rain streaming down his face. "Who the hell fired that shot?" he whispered, scanning the darkness for their mysterious savior. Ashley didn't pause to celebrate. She worked the bolt action, chambering another round with practiced efficiency. She identified a machine gun nest that had the SEALs pinned down from the eastern approach and fired again. The machine gunner and his assistant disappeared from her scope, the heavy weapon falling silent. Harlow recognized the opportunity immediately. "Dixon, Thompson, eastern approach. Williams, get Davis on his feet. Johnson, western cover fire. Move!" The SEALs responded with immediate action, seizing the moment of confusion to begin fighting their way off the bridge. Ashley continued her methodical support, each shot targeting a strategic threat. An ammunition truck exploded in a fireball when her third round found its fuel tank. A fourth shot took down a sniper's nest. A fifth eliminated a mortar team preparing to target the center of the bridge. Each shot was deliberate, precise, devastating. On the bridge, Dixon counted the shots. 12 rounds, he muttered in disbelief. 12 hits? Who the hell can shoot like that in these conditions? As the SEALs reached the eastern end of the bridge and established a defensive perimeter, Harlow keyed his radio. "Unknown sniper, this is Phoenix, actual. Please identify yourself." Through his night vision goggles, he caught a glimpse of movement on the western canyon wall, a small figure methodically cleaning a rifle. Dixon followed his gaze. "Sir, is that looks like..." As lightning flashed again, Harlow's breath caught in his throat. "Is that Rivera, the logistics specialist?" Before Dixon could respond, Harlow saw a group of enemy fighters converging on the sniper position. "Rivera is compromised," Harlow barked into his radio. "Enemy forces approaching her position from the south." A burst of gunfire erupted from the canyon wall. Through his optics, Harlow watched as Ashley abandoned her position, moving with surprising speed across treacherous terrain. "Sir, we have to help her," Dixon urged. Harlow assessed their situation rapidly. One man wounded, limited ammunition, unknown number of enemy combatants still in the area. The tactically sound decision was to continue their withdrawal. But the woman on that canyon wall had just saved his entire team from certain death. "Williams, secure Davis, Dixon, Johnson, Thompson, with me. We're going to provide covering fire for our guardian angel." Harlow pointed to the eastern ridgeline. "That position should give us sight lines to her exfil route. Move." The 4 SEALs sprinted through the rain toward the elevated position. They established firing positions just as Ashley came under concentrated attack from a group of fighters who had circled behind her. "On my mark, suppressive fire. 3, 2, 1, execute." 4 rifles opened up simultaneously, their coordinated fire forcing the enemy to seek cover. Ashley recognized the assistance immediately, using the opportunity to slip away down a narrow ravine. Harlow watched her disappear into the darkness, a ghost vanishing into the storm. "Cease fire," he ordered. "She's clear." Dixon lowered his rifle, shaking his head in amazement. "Sir, was that really Rivera, the supply clerk?" "I think we've all seriously underestimated Specialist Ashley Rivera," Harlow replied grimly. "And I want to know why." A bullet had grazed Ashley's left arm during the escape, leaving a burning furrow that bled steadily. Still, she pushed forward, needing to reach the rally point where the supply convoy would pass on its return journey. The radio at her hip crackled. "Shadow, this is Phoenix, actual. If you can hear me, we're clear of the bridge. Thanks to you, we all made it out. Can provide coordinates if you need assistance." Harlow had used the call sign Shadow an operational designation she'd never been given. Ashley considered responding. The SEALs knew it was her now. There was no point maintaining communication silence, but acknowledging her actions would create an official record that she had operated far outside her authorized role. The radio crackled again. "Shadow, this is Phoenix Actual. We observed you taking fire. Report status." The genuine concern in Harlow's voice surprised her. This was the same commander who had dismissed her earlier warning. Ashley keyed the radio. "Phoenix Actual, this is Shadow. I am mobile. Minor injury only. Proceeding to extraction point. No assistance required." "Copy that, Shadow. Be advised, remaining hostiles are regrouping south of your position. Recommend you alter course northeast for 2 clicks before resuming your planned route." "Understood. Phoenix Actual. Thank you for the cover fire earlier." "That's twice today you've saved our asses," Harlow replied. "Consider it partial repayment." Ashley continued her journey through the stormy night, eventually reaching the rally point just as the supply convoy appeared. Torres had waited. He said nothing as she climbed into the cab of his truck, soaking wet and bleeding from her arm. As the first light of dawn broke over the mountains, Torres finally spoke. "Whatever happened out there, you should know the base is buzzing about a phantom sniper who saved a SEAL team from ambush." Ashley stared out the window at the harsh landscape passing by. Not a miracle, just preparation meeting opportunity. As they approached the base perimeter, Ashley felt a strange calm settle over her. Whatever consequences awaited, she had made the right choice. 8 men were alive who would otherwise be dead. That knowledge was worth any price she might have to pay. Inside the base, organized chaos reigned. Medical teams rushed to meet incoming helicopters carrying the SEAL team. Intelligence officers huddled in tight groups, trying to make sense of the mission's unexpected outcome. Ashley slipped through the commotion unnoticed, making her way to the medical tent to have her arm treated. As the medic finished bandaging her arm, the tent flap opened. Master Sergeant Mitchell entered. "Heard you got yourself scratched up on a supply run," he said conversationally, loud enough for others to hear. Then, lowering his voice, "Harlow is looking for you. Whole command staff is trying to figure out who saved their operation." Ashley nodded slightly, understanding the unspoken warning. "Everything's in order," Mitchell continued, answering her unasked question about her quarters. "I took care of it when the alert came through that the convoy was delayed." Relief washed over her. Mitchell had removed the incriminating items, protecting her once again. Ashley woke to the sound of hushed voices outside the medical tent. "She's in there," someone said. "But she's been through hell, Commander. Maybe give her some time." "This can't wait." The voice belonged to Commander Harlow. "The General is personally requesting answers about our mysterious guardian angel." The tent flap opened and Harlow entered, followed by Sergeant Dixon. Both men looked exhausted, their uniforms still bearing traces of the previous night's battle. Harlow approached her bed, his expression unreadable. For a moment, he simply stood there, studying her with new eyes as if seeing her properly for the first time. Instead of reprimand, Harlow extended his hand. "Thank you for saving my men, Specialist Rivera." The simple acknowledgement caught her off guard. She hesitated briefly before accepting the handshake. "I was doing my job, sir," she replied quietly. Dixon moved to stand beside his commander. "Your job is logistics, last time I checked. What you did out there, 12 shots, 12 kills in those conditions, that's not standard supply clerk training." Harlow leaned forward. "I've spent the last 6 hours in a room with the base commander, 2 intelligence officers from Langley, and a general who flew in specifically after hearing about a phantom sniper who eliminated Raymond Khalid and saved a SEAL team from annihilation." His voice lowered. "I told them I had no idea who provided overwatch for my team, that the shots came from an unidentified position, and that whoever fired them disappeared before we could establish contact." Ashley's expression remained neutral, though inwardly she felt surprised. Harlow was protecting her. "Why would you do that, sir?" she asked. "Because something doesn't add up. A logistics specialist with sniper skills that surpass our best operators. 17 denied transfer requests to combat units. And a Barrett 50 caliber rifle that doesn't appear on any base inventory." "My father was Miguel Rivera," she said finally. "He taught me to shoot before I could read. The Barrett was his." Recognition flashed in Harlow's eyes. "Miguel Rivera, Desert Storm, the Highway of Death operation." "Before your time, Sergeant," Harlow explained to Dixon. "Miguel Rivera was a legend in certain circles. Unofficial sniper attached to special operations, saved an entire Marine unit during the Gulf War with shots that defied explanation. And the military stationed you in logistics with those skills?" Dixon asked incredulously. "Female, 5'2". "Not the profile they look for in combat snipers, regardless of qualification scores," Ashley replied. "The intelligence about Blackwater Bridge. You tried to warn us. How did you know?" Harlow asked. "Supply runs gave me access to observation points overlooking key terrain features. I documented vehicle movements, camp expansions, patrol patterns. When command dismissed my concerns, I made a choice." "You went outside the chain of command," Harlow stated. "I did what my father would have done," she countered. "When lives are at stake, sometimes protocol has to take second place to what's right." Dixon nodded slowly. "Can't argue with results. 8 men alive who should be dead." "By rights, I should report this," Harlow said. "But I watched you take those shots. I've never seen anything like it in 27 years. The brass wants to pin a medal on the phantom sniper who saved their operation," he continued, "but officially identifying you creates a problem. It means acknowledging that a logistics specialist operated without authorization and outperformed an entire SEAL team." Dixon cleared his throat. "Sir, there might be another option. Special Operations Command has been pushing for more diverse skill sets in unconventional warfare roles. This could be presented as a successful field test of embedded specialists operating autonomously. Reframe it as an authorized operation that was kept compartmentalized for security reasons." Harlow mused. "How would you feel about a transfer to Special Operations Command Rivera, officially this time?" After 17 rejected requests, the door to combat operations was suddenly wide open, yet something held her back. "With respect, sir, I think I might be more effective remaining where I am," she said quietly. "I want to operate where I'm needed most. Sometimes that means being the shadow no one sees coming." Dixon exchanged a look of bewildered respect with his commander. "She's got a point, sir. The enemy prepares for known threats. They don't prepare for the logistics clerk with a Barrett 50 cal." "Decision made," Harlow said. "I'll inform command that our unit receives support from an embedded special operations asset whose identity remains classified for security reasons." "Don't thank me yet," Harlow continued, "because I'm also going to recommend you for additional training and clearance upgrades. If you're going to continue operating in the shadows, you deserve proper support." He moved toward the tent exit, then paused. "One question, Rivera. The final shot on Khalid, 1,200 yards, 15 mm crosswind in the rain. How did you make that?" Ashley's eyes softened with memory. "My father always said, you don't need to be the fastest shooter. You just need to make the final shot perfect." 1 month later, Fort Liberty hosted a rare visitor, General Robert Chambers, commander of special operations for the entire region. After hours of meetings with Commander Harlow, Chambers requested a private audience with Ashley Rivera. "Miguel Rivera was a friend of mine," he said after preliminary greetings. "When I heard about a mysterious sniper eliminating Raymond Khalid with a Barrett 50 caliber from 1,200 yards in a rainstorm, I had the strangest sense of déjà vu. I've reviewed your service record," he continued, opening a folder. "Commander Harlow speaks very highly of your contributions. He's placed himself in a difficult position by protecting you. I never asked for his protection, sir, Ashley replied evenly. No, I don't imagine you did. You're very much your father's daughter in that respect. Chambers stood and moved to the window. The Pentagon has become very interested in expanding unconventional warfare capabilities, particularly in utilizing overlooked talent in non-traditional roles. Turning back to face her, he added, your actions at Blackwater have provided a compelling case study. Official channels are now being created for exactly the kind of dual-role specialist you've already become. Operatives who maintain cover identities within support functions while possessing advanced combat capabilities. He slid a document across the desk toward her. This is a formal commendation for your actions at Blackwater Bridge. It will be entered into your record with appropriate security classifications. I'm also offering you a choice, Specialist Rivera. You can transfer to formal special operations training, sniper school, advanced tactical instruction, the works. Or you can remain exactly where you are, continue your logistics duties as cover for specialized operations. I believe I can best serve by remaining in my current position, sir, Ashley said, with the understanding that I would continue to provide specialized support as needed. Chambers nodded, unsurprised. Very well. Effective immediately, you are officially assigned to logistics duties at Fort Liberty. Unofficially, you will receive the designation Specialist Operative with authorization to support combat operations at Commander Harlow's discretion. As Ashley rose to leave, Chambers added, your father would be proud, Specialist Rivera, not just of your skills, but of your understanding that the most valuable service often happens in the shadows. That evening, Commander Harlow found Ashley sitting outside the mess hall, watching the sunset. General Chambers has authorized me to incorporate your specialized support into future mission planning, he said. You're a full member of this team now, with equal voice in operational decisions. Your cover remains logistics, but your role extends far beyond that. There's something else, he continued. The team wanted to do something to acknowledge what happened at Blackwater. He handed her a shell casing from a .50 caliber round, polished to a mirror shine and mounted on a wooden base. Engraved on the base were 13 words. One shot can open the way. The Shadow, Blackwater Bridge, Afghanistan. Private Johnson donated his souvenir, Harlow explained. Said it was only right that it come back to the person who fired it. Thank you, Commander, Ashley replied, emotion threatening to break through her composure. One question I've been meaning to ask, Harlow said before leaving. That night on the bridge, after your first shot took down Khalid, you made 11 more? All perfect. Why exactly 11 more? Ashley looked up. Because that's how many strategic threats remained that could have prevented your team's escape. Not 12 targets of opportunity. 12 specific threats prioritized in order of danger to your men? Harlow shook his head in amazement. Remind me never to play chess with you, Rivera. After he left, Ashley remained watching the sunset, turning the shell casing over in her hands. In that moment, she felt her father's presence more strongly than she had since his death. Not as grief or loss, but as continuation. The next morning, Ashley resumed her logistics duties with the same quiet efficiency she had always shown. To casual observers, nothing had changed. But now when she entered a room, conversations shifted subtly. Combat operators nodded respectfully. Intelligence officers sought her perspective. Command staff incorporated her observations into mission planning. 2 days later, a small addition appeared in the base's trophy case. Next to medals for valor and unit commendations sat a polished .50 caliber shell casing on a wooden pedestal. No name accompanied it, no explanation provided, yet every soldier who passed knew its significance. For Ashley, the memorial represented something more personal, a reminder that heroism often wore unexpected faces, that capabilities couldn't be judged by appearances or titles, that sometimes the most important person in any conflict was the one no one expected to be there. 1 year later, Fort Liberty had transformed in subtle but significant ways. The culture that had once rigidly separated combat operators from support personnel had evolved into something more integrated and respectful. Female service members in particular found new opportunities opening as commanders reconsidered traditional assumptions about capability and potential. Master Sergeant Dixon, now promoted, incorporated this lesson into training for new arrivals. The person serving your meals today might save your life tomorrow, he would tell them. Treat everyone with the respect you'd give a fellow operator because you never know who's watching your back when it matters most. On a quiet evening exactly 1 year after Blackwater Bridge, Commander Nathan Blackwood, Harlow's replacement, approached Ashley as she sat outside the mess hall. We've received intelligence about a situation developing near the Pakistani border, he said without preamble. High-value target, heavily guarded compound, extreme range considerations. Ashley looked up from her notebook. Sounds challenging. Intelligence suggests a 72-hour window before the target relocates. Standard approaches would telegraph our intention and spook the target. We need something unconventional. I assume you have a plan, Commander? Blackwood held her gaze steadily. We need a shadow. Ashley closed her notebook with deliberate care. Then you shall have one. That night, as she prepared her equipment, Ashley thought about the strange journey that had brought her to this point. Her father had taught her that the final shot must be perfect. What he hadn't told her, what she had discovered for herself, was that sometimes the most important shots were the ones no one else knew had been taken. The next morning, Ashley filed her standard logistics reports, arranged for coverage of her regular duties, and quietly joined the convoy heading toward the Pakistani border. To any observer, she was simply another support specialist accompanying a routine patrol. In reality, she was the shadow moving once more into position to protect those who would never know her name. Some angels, after all, prefer to remain invisible.